Well, this is Sky News in just a moment, the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. First, though, reminder of our top stories this evening. Donald Trump says he has the framework for a deal over Greenland and says he's called off his threat of tariffs against the UK and other countries that opposed his takeover of the Arctic island. Well, the breakthrough was announced by the US President at Davos after talks with the UN Secretary-General Mark Rutte. And our other top story, Prince Harry has been in the witness box of the High Court, close to tears as he accused the Daily Mail of making Meghan's life an absolute misery. Well, hello there, you're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages tonight, as you can see, with Jack Elsom and Jenny Kleeman. And we have to point out that it's my last one. And Jenny, as you point out, it means it's your last one as well. Because the press preview is no more from next Monday. We're moving to the wrap. And can I just say to everyone who's been watching, thank you very much indeed. It's been a privilege to have such a loyal audience here. But I'm going to get teary. Shall I do the papers? Anyway, to the front pages, as ever. Let us begin with the headline. On the front of tomorrow's Guardian, Trump claims that a framework of a future deal on Greenland has been agreed. It's on the front of the Telegraph too. Trump strikes Greenland deal. The Financial Times reporting on Donald Trump saying he will not impose tariffs on February the 1st after agreeing a Greenland deal framework with NATO's Mark Rutte. The Mirror focuses on the speech given by President Trump in Davos, calling it a delusional rant, daddy fool, the headline there. The Daily Mail is reporting that Donald Trump could offer Greenlanders $1 million each. Trump's deal with Greenland also making the front page of the Daily Star. It's a done deal, boom, boom. Meanwhile, the Daily Express reports struggling pubs will face years of tax rises. According to the Metro, a court has heard how Donald Trump's son, Barron, contacted British police after a female friend living in London video called him while allegedly being assaulted by her boyfriend. The defendant denies all charges. The trial continues. The Sun is reporting that Nigella Lawson is set to join the Great British Bake Off as Prue Leith steps down as a judge. So let's talk more then with the political editor of The Sun, Jack Elsom, and the journalist and broadcaster, Jenny Kleeman. It's a busy night for the last one as well, isn't it? Goodness me. So Financial Times, not surprisingly, Jack, picking up on the tariffs element of this, because this would have hit British business and elsewhere hard.
Well, it's been quite the day. We came into Davos, Trump landed this morning late, and we had the threat of military force and we had the threat of tariffs on the table. He then gave that 90-minute, pretty rambling speech in which he took military force off the table in terms of invading Greenland, but tariffs are very much on the table. And then white smoke in the past few hours or so that he's no longer going to impose tariffs on European countries such as Britain, which would have pushed up the prices of British imports in America and hit the economy. And actually, he says that after having this meeting with the NATO Secretary-General, Mark Rutte, there is now, in his words, the framework for a future deal around his ownership of Greenland. Now, we don't know at the moment what that's going to look like, and so I think it remains to be seen exactly what the meat and the bones are going to be in terms of whether or not the US are going to own all of Greenland, whether or not there's going to be some sort of lease arrangement, whether they get parts of it, the military will control elements of it, we don't know. What we do know is that clearly a combination of European opposition and I think market instability and jitters has made Donald Trump, who is famously pretty stubborn, rethink his decision.
Yeah, even on Monday, gold went up, you know, the safe haven of gold. But do we trust a done deal? A bit from the Star had said.
Well, there's another factor that you haven't mentioned there, Jack, which is Mark Rutte, the Secretary-General of NATO, his obsequiousness. I mean, people call him the Trump whisperer.
Another one, you mean?
He calls Trump... he calls Trump daddy.
Yes.
OK? At least our Prime Minister does not do that. But he calls him daddy. Donald Trump likes him, so he had some chats.
Not yet, yeah.
Not yet, give it time. He had some chats with Mark Rutte, after which he put out this post on Truth Social saying, you know, yeah, the details have to be ironed out, but there is a framework for a deal agreed. Mark Rutte is not in a position to be discussing the terms of any deal. He's not Denmark. He's not Greenlandic. The people of Greenland need to have a say in what happens to the place where they live.
But this is the confusing thing.
Yeah.
What involvement has there been from the people of Greenland? And the Denmark PM coming to Downing Street tomorrow lunchtime, they will be saying some words, we understand. I don't know if you're going down there, are you, or not?
I think so, yeah. I think Mette Frederiksen's coming in around lunchtime.
You're going to tell us your question? Shall we, we'll formulate
Depends
it.
whether they're opening it up or not. But Jenny's totally right. I mean, Mark Rutte has been painstaking to, how do you put it, stroke and massage Donald Trump's ego in private text messages, which the president then thanks him for by publishing them to the entire world.
As he did with President Macron's...
As he did with Macron as well.
Yeah.
And you can imagine a scenario behind closed doors where Mark Rutte says, listen, Donald, I'm totally on your side here. I get that you need to have some sort of say over Greenland. We're going to work through a way of getting this over the line. And then Donald Trump, 10 minutes later, comes out and tweets that he's managed to get himself a brilliant deal with this. So I think until we see both sides of the story here, it's very difficult to make a judgment call on exactly what's going on.
Yes, and in terms of the UK Prime Minister, we saw Gavin Newsom, didn't we? Governor even of California yesterday saying, come on, European leaders, get a backbone. I need knee pads because you're at his feet, giving him crowns or whatever. You know, did we see a bit of backbone from Sir Keir Starmer at Prime Minister's Questions today when he reiterated very carefully that he would not back down on an issue like this?
We saw more backbone than we ever have done before, but that's it. I mean, he said, we will not yield, we will not give up our values. But there wasn't a lot of saying it is totally outrageous that he's behaving this way. You know, he wasn't prepared to do what Mark Carney did yesterday, which was make a point of saying, you know, we are now, the old world order is over. We need to accept that we cannot rely on the US. So, you know, it was a little bit more backbone, but really not enough for my liking, you know, especially if the way that Starmer is positioning himself is, you know, we are the country of values, and that is essentially all that we have on the world stage, is that we're the country of values. We do actually have to stand up for them. So, I mean, I think he's still trying to keep everyone sweet. But then again, look at what happened today with Mark Rutte. Maybe that is the answer. Maybe the answer is not to be Mark Carney. Maybe the answer is to, what did you say, stroke his ego? I'm trying to say it in ways that are acceptable on television. You all know what I'm talking about here.
We do. The Guardian as well. Trump claims that a framework of a future deal on Greenland has been agreed. Goodness me, every time he speaks, you know, he dominates everything, does he not? And to be fair, he knocked Canada back in his speech at Davos today, suggesting you exist because of us and you'll be protected by the golden dome, you know, that I want to build.
He basically tore strips of everybody.
Yeah.
He tore strips of European allies, he tore strips of NATO for penny pinching on defences, he tore strips of Canada, once probably, you know, the closest ally to the United States other than Britain. You know, he clearly has a pretty fictitious relationship with Mark Carney. They come from totally opposite ends of the spectrum. Mark Carney standing up yesterday at NATO and saying that Trump was ripping up the world order. Trump, the bulldozer, then goes to that same podium today and says that, you know, Mark, you should be careful because Canada wouldn't even exist without America's say-so. You know, he has had designs on things before, though, and this is the it seems to be the two sides about what Trump is. Is he FAFO, the acronym which I can't repeat on air because it's too rude, which Pete Hegseth said after they did that snatch and grab. They did that snatch and grab after of Nicolas Maduro, or is he Taco? Is he Trump always chickens out and he has such bluster and he has such bullishness and he says he's going to do this, he's going to do that, he's going to invade, he's going to use this force, and then actually at the last minute he pulls back.
Yes. Accuracy in terms of China does not have wind farms, although I think they built as many in 1 year as the whole world and has got 5 times as many as the United States of America. Some revisionism, possibly, that we would all speak German or Japanese if it was not for them. Never mind the principles of the UK that defended Sudetenland, Poland, etc. at the start of the war without the Americans joining in until they were attacked at Pearl Harbor. Never mind all of that. Anyway.
Never mind all of that. And also the fact that he called Greenland Iceland 4 times.
Do you know, if that's been disputed slightly, because he was talking about it's a lump of ice, it's that Iceland, effectively.
Well, if Joe Biden had done that, that would be evidence of his manifest senility. Look, it was interesting because normally, because of the time difference, we rarely see his speeches in their entirety played out live because we're asleep. Yeah. This was an hour and a half of long, rambling, grandiose rhetoric, full of grievance, full of resentment that we're not grateful enough, that, what is he said, without us, most countries wouldn't work. Imagine sitting there, it's a kind of menacing, veiled threats throughout it. You know, I would say it was an insight into his inner workings, but we didn't learn anything that we didn't know before. He is a very extreme personality.
Yeah. A bit of screaming at him there. My producer points out that we actually abandoned Sudetenland in 1938, but eventually we did not, I suppose, is the point, isn't it? Daily Telegraph as well, Trump strikes Greenland deal. We sit there and go, but we need to know what the deal is and whether we trust a deal too. So when will we find out about it? Are there any indications apart from the longevity of the deal? He talks about it being forever or long-term, doesn't he?
And the whole of the Arctic region, not
just
Greenland. What does that mean? I mean, really, what does that mean? And that's why this headline from The Telegraph is misleading, because he hasn't struck any deal. He's talked about the possibility of a framework for it.
I noticed Tim Stanley said, you'll all be speaking German if it wasn't for us. Yes, he actually said that. So the eyebrows raised about the...
They have a bit in The Telegraph, which is sort of buried quite down their splash copy, which says that well-placed sources have told them that the deal stops short of the overall sale of Greenland to the US, so therefore we know that Trump probably hasn't got his key ask in ownership, which he was going on about earlier. It says instead the framework agreed would allow the US to have sovereign control of the military bases in parts of Greenland. Now, the US already have a pretty big military presence on Greenland, and only in that speech earlier on today, Donald Trump made clear that having any sort of lease arrangement wouldn't be worth the paper it's written on. He said that in terms of legality and psychologically, the 2 points he made, he wanted total and outright ownership of Greenland. So it does seem, if the Telegraph are right tonight on the actual details of the deal, that he has massively climbed down from what he said only a few hours ago.
And people point out that it is the Americans who have not stationed troops at Greenland. They've only got, you know, some fairly old icebreakers. They need more icebreakers if they will do anything. And it's the 11th Airborne, isn't it, I think, who are the only Arctic-trained troops that were mobilised, but I think to go to Minnesota. So everyone was like, oh dear, they've been mobilised. That doesn't look good. But anyway, when he ruled out, you know, military action first of all, and now there's this deal. The Mirror says, delusional president's rant, daddy fool, Trump, I am loved by European leaders. He talks tough, then U-turns on his tariff threat. Starmer, I will not yield over Greenland. You know, it leaves us confused, on our toes, you know, edgy about what happens next. Every day it's a new thing. But does this show that deals can be done really quickly? You can rant about Greenland, you know, most specifically since the weekend, and you've got a deal by Wednesday. Is this how we should all be operating?
Maybe this is Trump's genius. And yes, I'm going to use that word. If you transcribe what he says, he has a very, very small vocabulary. He talks in real vagaries. But they allow him to get what he wants because he doesn't say anything that can necessarily come back to bite him. And he sows this confusion. A year ago, 2 years ago, the idea that we would be in this position where we're ceding any of Greenland or Europe, NATO was prepared to have these discussions.
No, or that we were discussing American troops taking European territory.
Indeed. And, you know, in fact, that we're having a sigh of relief today that one NATO country isn't going to invade another.
Yeah.
But this is the new normal, and that is his genius in being able to push the dial and bamboozle everybody.
I think Jenny's right, you know, and the job of anyone watching all of this is to try and pick out, is there any method in the madness, or is it just madness? And, you know, time after time and again, she's right, it's very easy, isn't it, to just dismiss Trump as rambling and unhinged. And clearly, a large element of that speech was quite bizarre, especially when he started going on about rigged elections and relitigating all of the 2020 election. But actually, you know, step back a bit and amid all the bluster, and it seems that a breakthrough has been made here.
Yes.
And again, you know, Jenny's right. The fact that we're now breathing a sigh of relief that he hasn't invaded, step back of the fact and actually think, but he's actually got some of what he wanted, which would have been unthinkable in itself. And that was his negotiating strategy in business as well. You know, you come from such a tough negotiating position and you go basically all guns blazing, and then you row back a bit and get something which you probably wanted all along, but it seems that you've actually compromised.
But we have to work out exactly what he wanted. And was it actually to do with defence, or is it to do with rare earths? Is it to do with shipping lanes? He said not, but, you know, what do we believe? Does he want this legacy of having expanded American territory? We don't know, actually, exactly what he wants.
And what has he actually gained? If the word sovereign is critical to him, he's already got the right to put troops on Greenland already. And just on that rigged election, he did say people will soon be prosecuted for what they did, which he said was breaking news. And also in terms of acquiring other nations, you know, they've did it as the Europeans used to do it, nothing wrong with it, which makes the Russian president sit there, who's been invited to the Board of Peace. No doubt we'll talk about that a bit later on, but anyway, all very interwoven and very interesting. Lots more still to come in the next part of our programme, including The Guardian. Prince Harry on the front page there, as you can see, accusing the publisher of the Daily Mail of wanting to drive him to drugs and drinking. Talk about that next.
I'm David Blevins, one of Sky's US correspondents, based in Washington, D.C.
Conor, what did you say to the president? What did you say?
He's had a great meeting with him. He's a great man.
David Blevins from Sky News. Fire chiefs say that they're really stretched to the limit and running out of water. What have you got to say to that?
Sky News in the UK. Why do you think the president should intervene on Iran?
I think Iran acquiring a nuclear weapon is an acute threat to the national security of the United States.
Free wherever you get your news.
Go ahead, back white jacket.
Deborah Haynes from Sky News. He called you Daddy earlier.
No, he did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy. Thank you.
Leicester is on its knees.
They've ripped the soul out of my factory and there's nothing left.
It is eerily quiet.
It's constantly on the brink of capacity.
There's overcrowding. It's not a new thing.
It's rough.
There's nothing to hide. Why aren't international journalists allowed in?
Are you worried about escalation?
Of course I'm worried about escalation, which is why my focus is on de-escalation.
The region, I think, is on edge because they are anticipating a retaliation.
Iran retaliates for the US attacks.
Founding principle of the alliance, that an attack on one is an attack on all.
Could Putin attack another NATO country within 5 years?
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Ed Conway, Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is.
First off, just the scale of what we're looking at.
Our data shows it's been happening. Question is, why it hasn't been stopped.
I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Los Angeles.
Mr. Walker, you're anti-abortion, but two women say that you paid for their abortions. Are you a hypocrite, sir?
I've interviewed some of America's most recognisable politicians.
Will your candidates win?
I hope so. I think they will. I think they're great candidates.
Should the Defence Secretary and the Vice...
Wait, what country are you
from? The UK?
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist.
A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan has the right to respond.
You're like, what?
Historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment.
But what happens now?
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Baghir has this report.
And this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
Well, welcome back. You're watching the press preview. With me now, Jack Elsom and Jenny Kleeman. Jenny, should we talk about Prince Harry in court giving evidence? What did he say?
Well, he's been waiting for a long time to have his day in court, and he was half tetchy and half quite emotional, talking about how the toll that press intrusion has taken on his wife has led him to want to bring this complaint, even though the complaint relates to a period of time before Meghan was in his life. It's up until 2013. And his basic point is the press or Mail and the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday knew things about him that they could have only known through illegal means, through bugging or phone hacking or blagging, that is posing as someone who has a right to know very private information. And Associated Newspapers, who own the Mail, their argument is it was just top journalism. And you've got leaky people around you who are giving us stories. And it's an interesting thing because obviously journalists, good journalists, don't give away their sources, so they're going to have to explain how they got their stories without giving away their sources. He's really adamant that there are no sources, that they stole this information illegally from him. And the thing about Prince Harry is, well, this is all he has. He doesn't have his charity work anymore. He's not a working royal. This campaign against the press is kind of his life's work at the moment. And most people settle when they are in these kinds of disputes with newspapers and newspaper groups, but he is part of this very high-profile group of people, including Doreen Lawrence, Sienna Miller, a bunch of...
Elton John, Furnish.
All of these people, many of these people, wealthy, powerful, able to actually hold people to account. And, you know, Associated Newspapers has not settled out of court. So this is all actually being heard, and we're going to hear how they defend their stories. They say it's just top journalism.
Yes, in the Telegraph as well. If we quickly look at that, Prince Harry posed as Mr Mischief online. The Duke of Sussex used the pseudonym Mr Mischief to communicate with a tabloid journalist via Facebook.
Yeah, and I think he's denied that in court today. So the accusation being that he was on Facebook under a pseudonym and would essentially dish the dirt to reporters under the name Mr Mischief. But I think in court today he said that that's not true. I mean, there's two things going on here. Like Jenny said, you have the accusations of unlawful news gathering at Associated Newspapers, which they are denying robustly in court. And then you also have what you saw today in court as well, is him trying to relitigate former arguments about how the press have attacked him and his wife, Meghan, and how it made Meghan's life a misery. Obviously, lots of people would say that, you know, they're in the public eye. They said they wanted privacy. They've gone to America.
Running out of time.
I apologise.
That's what that means. Jack, Jenny, thank you. Here's the weather.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors Sky News Weather.
So, turning colder over the weekend. The next few days, they look mostly mild and unsettled. There's a Met Office amber warning for impactful rain over parts of eastern Scotland, with over 100 millimetres possible on some hills. I think the emotion has just got to me. I might have to end it there.
All Clear Travel Insurance proudly sponsors Sky News Weather.
Well, all the top stories coming up for you in Sky News at 11. Donald Trump claims that he has the framework for a future deal for Greenland, says he's called off his threat of tariffs. Back in a moment.